Our first conversation this Friday afternoon. In Nigeria's bustling economic environment, small and medium-sized enterprises constitute about 96% of businesses and over more than 85% of employment. But for Nigerian entrepreneurs, the journey is fraught with the need to navigate above a 20% average inflation rate at the moment, while a bit of stable exchange rates at this time are infrastructure deficits that can hinder growth and innovation. Financial management, a critical pillar for sustainability, demands more than just a cursory understanding. It requires a deep dive into the nuances of cash flow management, compliance, and strategic foresight. We are joined today by Temilola Onalaja. She's a finance analyst and financial controller known for her expertise in corporate finance and cost management across healthcare and infrastructure sectors. Today on Business Nigeria, she will be speaking on cost of doing business, Nigeria's business environment, focusing on issues around inflation, FX policy, and the future of corporate finance. Thank you so much for your time, Temilola. It's good to have you join the program.
Good afternoon. It's good to be on the show today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Based on your expertise, I think I'd like us to start that conversation this way. How would you describe the current economic climate for business owners in Nigeria? Of course, given the recent monetary policies, there's been a shift from the MPC. You are aware of that, I know. And of course, yes, FX fluctuations. I would say there's been a bit of stability in that space for some time.
Yes, definitely. There's been a bit of stability. The August headline inflation says we're down to 20.12%, contrary to the one, downwards from July, which was 21.88%. And from the recent MPR meeting that was had by CBN, for the first time in 5 years, the MPR rate was cut by 50 base points. So definitely there's a bit of stability that is being experienced. But to business owner, in reality, it still sounds like friction. And the reason being that cost of imports because Nigeria is largely a market that is filled with a lot of importation. The cost of getting foreign currency, the US dollars, is still very high. And it's actually very difficult to get it even at the official rate. So most companies, most business owners still have to go to the parallel market, I beg your pardon, to get this dollars in order for them to get their machineries, the raw materials, equipment and stuff that they need for them to do their business. So whilst I agree that the policies are kicking in, there is a downward trend in the inflation and all of that, but the effect is yet to be felt by business owners because, we all know that Nigeria, as everybody needs this, the dollars to transact with business with foreigner. And also for SMEs, getting credit facility is quite difficult, and even with higher rates, based on what the CBN rate is saying. So definitely, yes, the government is going in the right direction, but the effect is yet to be felt by business owners.
Indeed, like some would say, analysts like you would say, government seems to be getting the macro positively, but the micro seems to be the issue, if I'm correct, right? That's
right.
In your previous analysis published on prints and all, you emphasized the risk of FX volatility, particularly on company performance. Let me ask you how Nigerian corporates are adapting to the current FX environment, and what strategies do you see working?
Thank you so much. That's a very important question. In the course of my work and with people the clients I've worked with, most of the strategies that work for this company is looking back inwards. Yes, we need to import some goods and materials and whatnot, but for the companies to survive, they have now looked inwards to local supply chain and local invoicing. So sometimes they have to diversify, and some items, materials that on a normal day they have to import from Europe or the United States and whatnot, they are now looking into the country or even neighboring African country that the cost is not as high as going further down outside the country. So local local invoicing has helped, because instead of going out, they've now purchased in naira. And also another fantastic thing that people are doing now is, going back to the drawing board, checking what costs, what FX costing are the company using that is not really efficient. So everything has to go back to the drawing. Everyone has to go back to the drawing board to understand that what are the things that we normally would do, but it is not efficient for the current trend in the economy. And some have access to credit, which is working for them, but it's just a teeny weeny size of the entire population of the business owner that gets the credit facilities. And then some are even employing edging it through future contracts, and having I know of a client of mine that what they are doing is having a standard, blank out rate, FX rate, that they've agreed with their foreign suppliers, that this is the rate we are going to do this. You have to help us. This is what is going on. And yes, that is just one or two or three of the things that they are doing for them to survive in this current trends.
Indeed, people have to start to look inwards, backward integration, and all of that.
Yes.
At this time, I think it's really key. Now, you've worked directly with multinationals and SMEs in Nigeria.
Yes.
Now, from your experience, which category is struggling the most with inflation and why?
Well, yeah, this question is true. I've worked with those people, and to answer your question, I would say the health sector, manufacturing and construction. And I say that because if you check these three sectors, they are heavily dependent on imports. The healthcare, they depend on medical equipment, specialized machineries. The construction, the raw materials that they use, most of them is sourced they are not from Nigeria, they are sourced from outside Nigeria. So these sectors are really, really finding it tough, because some medical items can never be seen in Nigeria, no matter how much you want to look inward. You can't find them in Nigeria. And they have specific countries that they can get these items from. So these three sectors are really, really battling with the FX issues, but some way, somehow, they are getting it right in terms of having negotiated agreed rates with their suppliers or getting facilities from the bank.
Indeed. Now, let's move further to your judging roles with entrepreneurship programs exposed you to SMEs on ground. Now, what are the biggest cost challenges those businesses raised, and do you see policies addressing those concerns effectively?
Well, like everybody knows in Nigeria, the first thing is energy, power, logistics, and what's getting these effects that we've been saying from the start of the interview. Yeah. Most SMEs are struggling. Yes, the policies are doing an amazing job, even though it's at a slow pace, but the SMEs are really struggling. The multinationals also are struggling, and I'll tell you why. Diesel price for most companies, or if it's petrol that they're using, it's most of the time even higher than what they pay staff salary, the staff strength. So logistic, which is transportation, moving goods from one place to another, freight cost and all of that, it's high. These are costs that they are unavoidable. It has to happen, but they just have to bear it. And these are the issues these SMEs are facing. And they do not have access to credit. A lot, we all know getting credits these days is a bit difficult. Even though I must acknowledge that the government has put in place some soft loan, small business loan here and there, but it's not still sufficient. The cost of fuel is still biting deep. Transportation is biting deep into people's business. And at the end of the day, the end user always has to bear the brunt. While multinationals can always, fall back and, from their contract with their suppliers and all of that, small business don't have that luxury. So I would say to you that diesel price, the cost of transportation, logistics, and even sourcing for foreign currency These issues are there, they are being battled every day, and it's affecting business. And consumers are the ones bearing most of the brunt.
Indeed. The tax policy changes have been frequent in recent years. My question to you really now would be, as a finance analyst and practitioner, what impact are you seeing on companies' financial planning and competitiveness? We expect the new tax law to come into effect by January 2026. And a lot of expectations, a lot of misinterpretation in some cases. You will agree with me with regards to these tax laws. How does it come to you? How does it affect companies and all?
Well, what people need to understand that the new tax reforms, it's not a death sentence to business. It's not a death sentence to personal income earners. I just believe that people need to look into the fine linings. For most of the corporate firms I work with, what everybody is trying to do is go back to tax consultants that can actually interpret these things clearly. Remember, these things are laws, and sometimes when you look at them for their face value, the chances are high that you misinterpret what the government is trying to do. I would not want to say the government wants to kill the business. It makes no sense. What the tax reform is trying to do is the government wants to do what is right. We all know no country can survive without tax. They need the tax. However, they also need to bring in things that would make even the consumers, everyday people, be happy and be able to even contribute happily to this taxes. So the tax reform, I think, is beneficial both ways, to us, the everyday Nigerian, and also to the government. However, I believe that companies, SMEs, even small business, the smaller business owners, they should consult with their tax officer and not just read things offline and interpret things. Because I have discussed with my own stakeholders, and even the tax consultants are still saying that they are reviewing, they are interpreting so that it's clear. Sometimes even the minister, chairman had to come out, did some narrations and explain these things in details. My point is, the tax reforms are here. Everybody just needs to go back to the drawing board. The government wants to tax this, wants to tax that. How have they been slacking in some aspect of their businesses as well? How can they look inward and adjust to these things and also ensure that profitability and efficiency is not compromised? So that's actually my take on that. Thank you.
Now, Temilola, you built a reputation for accurate costing and profit maximization strategies. My question to you now will be, how can CFOs apply cost discipline today to stay competitive despite inflation and high interest rates?
Okay, thank you. Costing strategy is very important to all businesses, be it small, big, or multinational. And I know, working with a lot of multinationals and even smaller business, I've seen that has even beaten deep into their profitability. For me, the strategy is this: make sure you're sourcing for the lowest costing, the lowest prices from your suppliers. Sometimes sometimes I see companies or clients, just do costing without actually following through from start to finish. Costing starts from inside your company up until the goods get into your company, into your establishment. And for me, the best way to do this is ensure that every element of your service or your selling, your sales or whatever is accounted for. Once you get that right, again, you have to ensure that you're using, well, I don't want to use the word cheapest. Consumers are already complaining that the prices are high. So you want to also look out for your consumer, whilst also making sure that you are not getting excess costing, and also have a good continuous communication with your suppliers or whoever is doing the services for you. Because by having all of that together, when you can negotiate a price, get discounts, maybe however you want to do it, these things are all there. Get discounts, get strategic costing that is flat out with your suppliers. By the time you do that and you add up everything, the landed cost and all of that, you'll definitely have a reasonable price you can sell. I know regardless, sometimes it is still a bit expensive due to what we're experiencing, but at least you've covered ground and you are not just selling and not making profit. Even if it's just 1,000, you are making something back so that your business will not die and survive.
I wanted to ask you the final question, but before I ask you that, from your perspective, what specific reforms in FX, fiscal policy would make the biggest difference to businesses over the next 12 to 18 months? I'm asking you this question because we've talked about the reforms, we've talked about what the monetary side is doing, what the fiscal side is doing to consolidate, both efforts and all of it. But are there specific reforms that you think can take place that would impact businesses in 12 to 18 months?
Well, I think the first off, the government is actually doing a good job already. I must acknowledge that again and again. I think they're doing a good job with the policies, the monetary policies and everything that's going on. However, more still needs to be done because, like I said at the start, that it is still foreign to most businesses that there's anything happening as per policy. So for me, I would want that the government, especially in the areas of energy and power, no business can run without power. And that is one thing that is consuming majority of the funds, the liquidity that businesses have. So if the electrical sector, if I can put it that way, the power sector can really be reformed, make it available and at reasonable price. Make it very available at reasonable price. I understand the fuel price and everything. There's been a back and forth, and to an extent, there's been some stability. But then again, Nigerians cannot afford a fuel hike. That would mess up all the other policies that we've gained so far, the inflation and the inflation rate coming down and every other thing. So for the government, basically, if they can just kill these two things, I know this thing is something we've always talked about year in, year out, power sector and the fuel thing. If the fuel pricing, if it can be fixed in some ways, and also if I can add, credit facility, accessibility to SMEs. I mean, when you want to loan money and the cost of getting the credit facility is even higher than your entire business, it makes no sense. And even the banks, they're not making it easy with the requirements and all of that. If they can make these things accessible and, all of these put together, it's going to help SME in their businesses and it will ensure they thrive and profitability is maxed out.
All right, finally, Temilola, based on your financial expertise, what is a key message to Nigerian business leaders, policymakers watching us live on this show today?
Well, what I would say to anyone in business in Nigeria today is this: first, take a deep breath, go back to your drawing board and get a good strategy that is going to work for your business. Everybody cannot do things in the same way. And you have to understand first your business, how it works, what works for you, and strategize a way to balance out with what is going on here. Resilient, we are Nigerians, we are very resilient. We don't slack or fall back when things are happening and then we lose out. We are always looking out for ways to do things better. So go back to your drawing board and get a strategy that will work. Like I said, we can localize some of the things that we are buying from outside Nigeria. There are some countries, there are some states that have these things in abundance at cheaper cost. Get it from them. Then you can do some consolidation, buying, the transportation thing. I know sometimes that one may be a bit difficult to fix, but there can be some, instead of going every now and then, you can consolidate. The strategy is ensure that you strike a balance, because government policy will never be good at all times. So we're not going to say because it's not good, then we fall out in business. We just have to mitigate against it and balance out with the government and ensure that we continue to make profit and we stay in business.
Temilola Onalaja is finance analyst and financial controller at Ecosystems Limited. Really nice talking to you, and hope to have you again on the show very, very soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, then. Bye-bye.